Man, everybody, it's key time coming back with another one to talk about the NBA playoffs from last night. Both game fours in the Boston Celtics Cleveland Cavaliers series and the Oklahoma City Thunder Dallas Mavericks series. So, the first one I want to get into is the Boston Celtics and Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland Cavaliers, they were shorthanded, they were undermanned last night. They didn't have Donovan Mitchell, and it spoke volumes later on in the game. Now, throughout the game, the Cavaliers they kept the game close, but it was the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown that willed the Boston Celtics to victory. Now, to mention, the bench production for the Boston Celtics came through again. Now let's see if they can have a, another game like this in game five. I said that this series the Celtics would win this series in seven. I had said I think it'll be much sooner than 7 games, and it's looking that way. When you look at what the Celtics did last night from the floor, I mean, they were 12 or 32 from the 3 point line. The Cavaliers made more 3 pointers, but as far as turnovers, they were costly turnovers. Now, the Celtics had more turnovers than the Cavaliers, but those 7 turnovers that the Cavaliers had was costly. In the end, it was costly. And as you see, when it comes to afterwards, since Donovan Mitchell was out, Darius Garland shouldered the load with 30 points. Karis LeVert had 19, and Max Strus had 15. Anybody else, and even, another player, Evan Mobley, had 19. Outside of those 4 guys, it wasn't much coming from anywhere else. So that's why I say that the Cavaliers, they are really a one-man show plus maybe 2 other players. You got Donovan Mitchell, and then some nights you have Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. But before the series started, I said the Celtics would win, and tomorrow night, Wednesday night, they will be headed after they win game 5, after the Celtics win game 5, which is tomorrow night, Wednesday. They will be waiting for the winner of the Indiana Pacers New York Knicks series. But as far as the Cavaliers, the series is done. Teams that go up 3-1 in a 7-game series win 95% of the time. And also, the Celtics players, Jason Tatum, he had a good game, 33 points. Jaylen Brown had a decent game, 27 points. And also the bench production had a great game too, with 25 points off the bench. And also guard Drew Holiday, he had another defensive game, also put in 16 points on the offensive side. And their 3-point specialist that comes off the bench, Peyton Pritchard, he had 11 points, which was big because even though the Celtics had a double-digit lead, it got close in the last 5 minutes of the game. Maybe even the last minute and a half, the Cavaliers got it down to 5, and then Jaylen Brown, he hits a 3, and that ultimately won them the game. And after game 5, we will be saying that the Celtics are on their way to the Eastern Conference Finals. You had a good season, Cleveland, but you came up short. You just ran into a better team. Now, the next series I want to talk about before I go is the Oklahoma City Thunder and Dallas Mavericks. Dallas dropped the ball in more ways than one last night. Dallas, they were leading the entire game from the first quarter till the early fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, they got up 14. They got up 14 with under 7 minutes left. I'm saying to myself, I'm like, okay, it's time for the Thunder. Hey, they faced a little bit of adversity last night. I'm like, it's time for them to step up to the plate, and that's exactly what they did. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he wasn't gonna let the OKC Thunder lose last night, even though that he was the only one. He was the only one that scored 34 points, and everybody else was in the mid to late teens, early 20s. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was really the driving force last night. And when you see what the OKC Thunder did in those last 9 minutes of the fourth quarter, they really slowed everything down. They slowed everything down. They gave it to Chet Holmgren, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and even Jalen Williams. He had caught fire late in the game. Now, just to mention a few of the players' stat lines. Chet Holmgren had 18 points. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I mentioned earlier, he had 34 points. Jalen Williams had 14 points. Luguentz Dort had 17 points. Jalen Williams, most of those points were very critical. He made some timely baskets to keep Dallas at bay. And when they were coming back down, they were down 14. When Dallas was up 14, I was saying, I'm like, they just need to get into the paint. Get into the paint and make their buckets like that. They didn't. They started getting 3-point happy, and we all know when you get 3-point happy and you start missing 2 or 3 consecutive 3-point attempts, you give your opponent chances to score in transition, or you give them chances enough to score 3-pointers of their own. And that's exactly what the Dallas Mavericks did last night. Now, this is the type of game in a series like this. Can the Mavericks come back and bounce back in OKC in Game 5? Who knows? But that the game was theirs for the taking last night. They let OKC come back, not just tie the game, but take the lead, and eventually they did not relinquish the lead at all. So, as far as the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic, he had a triple-double, but it was in a loss. He had 18 points, 10 assists, and 13 rebounds. Now, Kyrie Irving, he didn't have a bad game. He was just a facilitator last night because he had 9 points, 9 assists, and 1 rebound. See, what Kyrie Irving has did throughout this series, I'm not going to say that he's not in attack mode, because we know every time he gets the ball, he is in attack mode. But basically, he is trying to get his other teammates like Daniel Guilford, P.J. Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., Derek Levy II into the game. And even last night, I thought Tim Hardaway Jr. came away with a huge 3-point shot that I thought that would ultimately win the game for the Dallas Mavericks. So, as far as Game 4 concerned, Dallas, you lost your grip. You could have had a 3-1 lead in the series last night. Now, I am going to get to a couple of stat lines before I go. Now, as far as Dallas, they made more 3-pointers than the OKC Thunder, 12, and OKC made 7. As far as defense, as far as total rebounds concerned, OKC out-rebounded the Mavericks by 1 rebound. So that is how close this game That is how close this series is as far as total rebounds. Now, turnovers, Dallas had more turnovers than OKC, and that is what ultimately lost them the game. So, what can the Dallas Mavericks do for game 4? I believe that Luka and Kyrie Irving is going to have to be in attack mode. I mean, because if Dallas wins game 5, more than likely they'll win game 6. And teams that win game 5 in a best of 7 series win 85% of the time. So for all of that and everything else dealing with the OKC Thunder and Dallas Mavericks, who knows, this series may go 7. It's certainly looking that way, because these two, they have the same type of play style, and you could see that because OKC has Chet Holmgren and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the Dallas Mavericks have Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. And with that, those are my reactions from both game 4s in the playoffs last night. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified of all my shows, content, and etc. And remember, the last thing I always finish out with, remember, the key is always on time.